Welcome to Club E. Hi, I'm Rick Brimacombe of Brimacombe and Associates. I am your architect of business growth, and I'll work with you to unlock your potential and amplify the scale of your company. Today, we're talking about Agile Business Development. First, I want to thank our sponsors, Irish Titan, an e-commerce and web development firm, Boulay Group, CPAs and advisors, Highland Bank, a locally owned community bank, Romaine Berg, a digital marketing agency, Minnesota Sales, a sales acceleration firm, a new sponsor today, starting today, Host Pros USA, a managed service provider of website support, management, security, and reliability. And last but not least, the Network Connect, a catalytic gateway for growing your company. Before we get started, I'd like you to subscribe and like our Club E channel. We need your help, so take a moment. I'll wait for you. All you need to do is click the subscribe button, click the like button, and that will help us deliver better content to you, as well as let you know when we are going live with our sessions. All right, I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Mark Wyatt. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
And Mark's contact information is going to be in the comments fields. Mark, let's kick it off by having you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, the firm, and the various things that you're involved with.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. I basically a serial entrepreneur. Got started in technology about 20 years ago. Owned several small tech companies, one of which I sold and funded further ventures. During that time, I was able to do some exciting projects for Library of Congress, U.S. Bank, all software related, and help them solve several business problems.
And then in the era of COVID and doing things digitally, actually, you and I connected via LinkedIn. So we are a testament to the power of the digital community. So appreciate you doing that and us connecting with each other. All right, before we get started, here's how you, our audience, can participate as well as benefit from your involvement. So today, in the comments field, again, put in your questions. Our hashtag today is Agile, hashtag Agile. Up to 3 winners are going to receive a free 90-day trial of Mark's software platform, Agile Connect. Agile Connect's modules cover contact activity, email marketing, sales funnel management, and a task board. So again, hashtag Agile, 3 winners are going to be chosen, and that will allow you to put in any questions and have Mark spend time with that today, as well as have the two of us tackle whatever you happen to be working on. Okay, so let's start, lay a little foundation for us, Mark. Talk a little bit about what Agile Business Development actually is.
Sure. Basically, simply, agile business development is taking the same principles of agile software development and applying it to sales and marketing. So, just like you have sprints and you have retrospectives and a scrum master, you have all of those same components, but you're applying it to the sales and marketing process.
And then where did it come from? Obviously, you've got a varying business background with a bunch of interesting activities, but did you experience kind of an aha moment, or how did you come up with the idea?
Yeah, that's a good question. I really last year I was struggling with what to do next. I really didn't want to start another software tech company, so I started meeting with the CEOs and owners of tech companies. I met with over a dozen of them, ranging between 40 and 400 employees, and just kind of talked to them about some of the struggles they have or issues. And there seemed to be a recurring theme. They Most of them told me they were having issues with their sales and marketing, developing new business. Many of them had acquired business through relationships and through other factors in their past, but they struggled with getting anything new. So after talking to them about that, I thought about the way that I had gone about business development. And I actually had been doing agile business development for a long time, but had never really formalized it. The same way a lot of us had done agile software development in the past before it was a thing. And then when it came along, it's like, okay, that's what I've been doing. So I basically took a couple of those companies and they became clients for me to come in and start this process with them.
And then, obviously, I don't want you to give anybody's names, and for that matter, you don't even have to share the industry. But maybe give an example or two of how it worked with one of your clients.
Sure. One of my clients was a tech company, did software integration, software development, had developed that over many years, and they basically had a sales and marketing team that were struggling to get new business, new leads, new appointments. And I came in not necessarily having the answers for them, but having a mechanism for us as a team to get those answers. So we started 30-day sprints. I worked kind of as the scrum master. We would do retrospectives on our activity. I would go on appointments with them. And within 3 months, we were able to, generate some really good activity. So I would go cradle to grave with them from going on the appointment, helping them close the deal, bringing it in, working with the delivery team on actually delivering the solution that we sold as well.
Okay, so that's a good example, and I'm sure there are other issues, and maybe there's a laundry list of issues. But talk a little bit about the issues that tech companies face in new business development, and then I'm curious, how have things changed in the COVID environment, and how that has impacted these issues.
Sure. Um, the one of the main things that I notice is the message and the offering. Um, Many times, tech companies have more of a generic, broad offering. They're not really sure what to sell, who to sell to, and so that's one of the things we work on right away is what is their core competency, but also how are they presenting it to their market. And that's one of the things we go through cycles of changing. And that's the other thing that is difficult for them. They'll um, continue to do the same thing for months, if not years, but have very limited, if any, results. So that's the thing that we go through and change every 30 days. Who are we trying to sell to? What are we trying to sell? And then we measure that effort. We have metrics around it with a process. And with the pandemic, the one thing that's changed is the face-to-face meetings and being able to be on the client site and be in a meeting room. So that has been a little bit of an adjustment, but the benefits seem to have been a wash because even though you can't actually physically go there, you now are able to do more appointments and engage with more people, and it's not expected for you to be on site. So now you can really have more appointments and more things happening in your funnel than what I've ever been able to do before.
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually found that in my own life, less traveling around, less downtime, getting from point A to point B,
Hmm.
a little more focus on how I spend the time. So that's interesting that you've seen that with your clients, and so actually, ultimately, or at least potentially, their productivity goes up.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. And there's more data, there's more interaction, there's more things to measure now. There's more activity, and that's one of the key points of this is to have appointments, activity, so that you actually have something to measure and to refine and readjust. So the clients or the prospects are kind of like your users of the software in the agile world. So if you're not interacting with them and getting feedback, then you're really developing, so to speak, in a vacuum, in a black box, and that's many times what's happening. And that's where the process I bring gets rid of that. So the interaction, the appointments are a key metric and factor of this.
So the interactions, metrics, things that you're tracking, does that all fall into what's considered a micro campaign? And if not, what exactly is a micro campaign?
No, you're exactly right. That is really the micro campaign is the vehicle in which it facilitates those appointments and interactions. So usually, what I do is set up a campaign of a very targeted 2 to 500 contacts. And what we do is we either do a LinkedIn, an email, or even a actual phone call to those folks with a specific message to a specific industry and a specific person within the company. And so we take those, and I kind of think of them as knobs that we turn. So we turn all the knobs one way for that message, industry, size, a company, and person. And then we launch the campaign and we get the metrics back of what happened. We look at what successes or failures, and then we turn the knobs a little bit more and launch another 2 to 500. So after we do about a dozen of these, then we collect that data and see, well, what worked, what responses did we get, what appointments did we get, and then we take that and it helps us to continue to refine and make decisions based on that data.
And these little micro campaigns, these 2 to 500 contacts, that takes place over the course of a week, a month. What's a timeline with that?
Well, it really depends on the bandwidth of the company. And it depends on how fast or how fast they want to go. So they could all be consecutive. You could get a dozen of them done within a month, depending on your resources and the funding. Um, some companies, they do, we do 2 to 500 in a 3 or 4 week period. Other companies, we may do 4 micro campaigns in that same period of time. So it really depends on the bandwidth and how well they're able to, boot those up, get those going, and make those micro campaigns get sent out.
Okay. And then how does that tie into retrospective and what actually makes up a retrospective?
Yeah, I mean the retrospective is basically, just like in software development, good, the bad, the ugly. At the end of 30 days, I do a 30-day sprint. I've found that we can't really collect enough data in anything less than 30 days. So at the end of 30 days, every 30 days we do a retrospective, and we basically look at uh, you know we basically look at 4 different aspects of the retrospective, which is what good happened the last 30 days, what do we need to improve on, what ideas do we have, and what actions are we going to take. These 4 quadrants, we don't put any more than maybe a dozen items. So it's not some massive list. We keep it pretty simple of a dozen or so items in each quadrant to just take a snapshot of what did the last 30 days look like and how are we going to change things for the next 30 days.
Okay. And you've talked a couple of times about metrics. Obviously, you're metric driven. That's great. We totally believe in it here at Brimacombe Capital. Brimacombe and Associates work with our portfolio companies on that. Talk about what metrics that you focus on most.
Yeah, the biggest metric that I focus on is appointments, appointments, appointments. If we're not out talking to prospects and talking to customers, we're not able to complete the cycle of agile because you're not getting that user interaction. So that is a very, very key part of it. And of course, the ultimate metric is a new client is dollars. And so I keep the funnel very simple, appointment, follow up, proposal, and measure those. But the key one is appointments. So an important part of it is what it's not a new term, but to fail fast. So you want to find out what doesn't work. And that's a very important thing is finding out what doesn't work. It's just like an experiment in a laboratory. You may have to do 100 experiments to find the one that does work. So you've got to be willing to really look at that of what's not working and continue to adjust it and change to get to the thing that's going to work to get you an appointment.
And is the focus on appointments, is that kind of a new revelation and focus of yours, or has that been something that you've been using throughout your career?
Yeah, I've been using that throughout my career to a greater or lesser degree, depending on where I'm at. But I do have to say now more than any point, I'm very very focused on it. I keep my clients very focused on that, because in sales and marketing, it can kind of get kind of nebulous. And what are we doing? And we're spending effort here and money here. So anything that they do, or any vendor we engage with, any search engine optimization, anything, I always bring them back to that metric. Where are the appointments? Where are the meetings we're going to get out of that spend, out of that effort?
Hmm. And then you did a little bit of a case study earlier in our talk here today, but talk a little bit about the results that you've realized with your clients by utilizing this process.
Yeah, I mean, my one of my first clients when I started this last year, um, 3 months into it, three new clients. So that really showed me that this is a process that does work. So the thing that I talk to them about is not so much looking at dollars or sales, but new clients. And those clients will continue. Like one of them, they're still a client to this day, and they're continuing to do business with them. So that has been a very encouraging result, to see happen so quickly.
And then in the process, you mentioned appointments and then follow up and then proposals. How do you evaluate follow ups and break it down so that you can manage it as well as kind of understand progress that's being made, et cetera?
The one thing that I talk about is a false funnel. So generally, when I go in and start talking to the sales folks and letting them know that I'm there to support them and help them, I say, well, let's look at your funnel. And many times they have probably 10 times more companies in their funnel than what they really should. If they had, like one of my clients, he had like probably 70 companies and contacts in his funnel. We whittled that down to, I think, a dozen. So when I say a false funnel, basically it's contacts that are in there that aren't moving. We haven't contacted. We don't even know what's going on with them. We have to see movement in that funnel going from first contact, follow up, proposal, sale. If we got to push them through that. And once we get them through that, we don't throw them away. We can put them aside over here in some bucket, but we don't want them in the funnel anymore. Because what happens is if you have a false funnel and you think you've got 70 in there, then guess what? You're not going to try and put anything new in there. So that's what happens. They're not focused on new appointments or anything new because they think they have such a full funnel. And the reality is they don't. There's really not that much in the funnel that's worth keeping. So we go through a exercise to kind of blow out that funnel and whittle it way down.
Typically, I like asking questions about, hey, what's the best thing you've seen that's worked, and what are some common mistakes? Let's start with the positive ones. Are there threads by which you can look at success at your clients to say, hey, they did this, one, two, or three things, and they really did that well? Are there commonalities between your clients where the success really stood out?
Yeah, there really are, and it's the quality of the appointments that the business development folks are getting, and they're thinking more about, who are they targeting instead of having this shotgun approach. They're thinking more about a profile that fits in what we've been having success with in the company in the past, and my clients are having success in doing that and really focusing on a certain person in a certain industry and getting appointments and meetings with them.
Okay. What about typical mistakes? Whether they're clients of yours, and hopefully, if they're clients, they aren't making too many mistakes. But over the years and through this process, have you seen some typical mistakes that companies make?
Yeah, it's mostly not managing or measuring the process and the resources when it comes to business development. So there's no real uh, process in it. There's no way to measure it. It's just spend money on it, do this, do that. So that's one of them. The other one is not um, changing, is just doing the same thing over and over again and not changing something up as far as market approach, pricing, offering, message, in any of those. So those are the two big things.
And you mentioned through your process, you do the 1 month micro campaigns, and then you change some things. How much change are you talking about? Radical changes, or just a little tweak here or there? And maybe give an example of changing from one campaign to another.
Well, the the changes are not arbitrary. The market and the appointments and the interaction drives that. So it really, how big or how small the changes are depend on what the market is telling us. So if the market is saying you're trying to sell me something for $50,000 and my budget for that whatever is only $5,000. So, yeah, I mean, that's going to be a big change. We got to figure something else out. So, it really, the changes are driven by that feedback loop of pricing and product offering and message. And sometimes, I'll even tell them, let's ask this prospect, what did you think of our pitch? What do you think of the pricing? So it really depends on what that feedback is. I'm just a big believer in not trying to sell things to people that aren't or don't have the budget or aren't able to buy it, whatever it is. Now that being said, I don't encourage companies to change their core competency, but just put a different face on it, put a different price on it. So that's really where the changes are, is in that part of it.
Okay. And then change, and you mentioned, 1 month to the next, change, change, change. How often do you see or how long do you see this process going before you kind of land on what you think to be the appropriate messaging, pricing, story, etc.?
Yeah, it depends on the success. I mean, if we're not having success, we're going to change every month for a year. I mean, insanity, right? Keep doing the same thing and get a different result. So, we're going to continue to change until we start seeing successes. Now, if we see one success or a little success of just one appointment, okay, let's let's go with that. We're not gonna change anything. We got an appointment. So let's get another appointment. Let's get another one. So we start kind of growing that. And then if we get a sale, we get a new client, it's like, okay, we're on to something. What industry are they in? Who are they? What size is the company? Let's profile it. Now let's go after that. So I really don't try to have anything too set in stone when it comes to any part of that process.
Okay. But question from Matt, longtime listener. He was curious about the different tools of going to market. Are you mostly doing direct? Are you using social media and other internet things? I mentioned you and I found each other through LinkedIn. What are some of the tools that you're utilizing with your clients as far as going to market?
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that question. I kind of break things up into outbound and inbound. So, if you're doing wanting inbound marketing, you're wanting people to come to you. Your budget's going to be a lot bigger. You're going to have to put a lot more effort and energy into that, and it's a little bit harder to measure. So, mostly what I focus on is my clients doing outbound outreach through email campaigns, LinkedIn messaging, um, mining their existing relationships, very important. Um, doing that type of activity. Also, phone calls, just picking up the phone and making phone calls. And I'll sit down with the sales folks and I will make phone calls with them and come up with the messaging and get appointments that way. So, I'm always open to ideas from them as well. And that's part of it. The because of technology, things continue to change, so we have to continue to adapt to ways of getting in touch with folks.
Okay. And then as we get towards the finish line here on our talk today, again, thanks, Mark, for joining us. If you wanted to leave the audience for one key thing, whether we've touched on it already and you want to reiterate it, or whether it's something we haven't gotten to for whatever the reason, but you wanted to leave one key nugget with our audience, what would that be?
Just real simple. Be willing to accept what is not working and try something new.
That's simple. All right. And then soon as I said that we were heading to the finish line, another question from Rob. How much tweaking to strategy is too much? And maybe what you just said is there is no too much. And just starting a company, oh, that he's saying that where they're just starting a company and trying to test out what sticks.
Yeah. Um, the what is too much is when something works and you tried it and you change it. And I've had clients do that. And I'll beat my head against a wall with them. I'm like, why did you change anything? They got appointments, they got sales, and now all of a sudden they want to change their message or their offering. So to me, that is when you're too much. You're basically trying to fix something that isn't broken.
Okay. And then what about for your own practice? I mentioned to our audience that you and I found each other through LinkedIn. What are you doing for your own practice as far as
Um,
marketing goes?
yeah, I have folks that work with me and help me. I have a team that mines my LinkedIn account, and that's one of the key ways that I've found, is reaching out to folks on LinkedIn and having assistants to do that. So one person, it's difficult. The other thing I do is I send emails out to folks, very targeted, very strategic emails, with a very simple, small, specific message to them.
Okay. And then a question that we ask often, I think it's kind of an interesting one. Um, if you look back over your career and the various things that you've learned, was there an important lesson that you wish you would have learned earlier?
Yeah, probably formalizing this method of agile business development and doing that, not hit or miss, because I've done it hit or miss over my career, but formalizing it, having it as a process, and doing it very strictly, methodically every 30 days with all of the different ventures that I've done.
Okay. All right. And then a reminder for our audience that you can get Mark's contact information in the comments field, hashtag Agile to go on the drawing to receive a free 90-day subscription to Mark's software. A reminder to subscribe and like our Clubby channel so you can participate in future events and we can notify you when we're going live. So again, Mark, thank you very much for joining us
Sure.
and we look forward to having you back again.